MAGA mom detained by ICE. Her husband says he'll still support Trump. That is f***ing insane. Okay.
Federal agents. She and her family, all supporters of President Trump. See the MAGA hats. President Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf live for us in Diamond Bar. And Matthew, those Trump flags staying up tonight.
Yeah, those flags staying up. This family still supports Donald Trump despite their mom being detained. The final moments home for an Iranian woman detained by immigration agents.
It's getting increasingly more difficult to feel bad for some supporters, okay? Like every day I'm like, no, we must oppose this unconditionally. We must be loud in our opposition to this. But when I see stuff like this, it becomes so hard.
Thank you.
A mother Monday going inside to say bye to her 4 kids.
She came and kissed the kids and that was it. That's the last time I saw her.
A proud President Trump supporting family in Diamond Bar.
The election time was here. I had a full 3-4 flags out.
Even while their mom faces immigration questions. Has your opinion changed on this?
That's a good question. Somewhat it has. Just because I'm going through it. I was very selfish before.
But I'm still selfish now? Dude, what the f***? He's Persian. Last thing he needs to be accused to be working with the Shah? Bro, that is crazy. That is crazy. Brother, what the f*** is he?
Arthur Sahakian's wife, Arpaneh, was born in Iran and moved to the United States when she was 3 as a refugee.
She cashed a check, I believe it was less than $200, and this is all where it started.
Then, about 15 years ago, her green card was revoked over a conviction related to theft.
It's all misdemeanor stuff.
Arthur says they've been going through the legal process towards regaining citizenship with check-ins every 6 months or so.
She just went in April, and they said, okay, you're fine, have a good day. We'll see you back in September or October.
Then last week, the United States bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran, increasing tensions and concerns of Iranian sleeper cells retaliating in the U.S.
Bro, there has never been a moment where a guy got every single one of his wishes, and it's like a real monkey's paw situation. You're like a pro-Shah Iranian guy living in California. You finally get your reactionary right-wing Shah-style, Reza Pahlavi-style president back. You're super stoked. Then on top of that, he bombs Iran, and you're extra stoked. You're just throwing ropes at this point. You're like, oh my God, every single thing. I am Persian, and everything I wanted, President Trump is giving me. And then boom, in the aftermath of that, Trump is like, yo, pack up these Iranians because they're all sleeper cells. Holy shit.
I'm very for of them seeing the Iranian nationals because of the sleeper cells. I understand that.
Federal sources tell Fox News that more than 130 Iranian nationals were detained in the U.S. this last week.
I think it will resolve a lot of issues because we all know exactly who's in here for what reasons. Even though I miss her dearly, but I think we could do a better job of you catch someone, you see there. And
dog, your children are crying because mommy's in the slammer. Are you f***ing serious? That's your wife, dog. Dude, this is next level. You can't even do a Fell for It Again award for this guy. He's still falling for it. He's still in the process of free fall. That's crazy, man. I mean, is this even I think we've moved beyond onion bits at this point, because even the Onion's like, no, that's a bridge too far. I feel like that's too much. You know what I mean? Like this is unimaginable levels of cult-like thinking. What the f***? He's like, yes, finally, my bitch wife is arrested so I can live out my dreams and what? Marry Donald Trump? Like, what the f is the dream? Bro, the only thing that's worse than this is if you were getting arrested and you were like, and I think this is valid. I think it's valid. I love my President Trump. If he arrested me, there's a good reason for it. I'm a real piece of shit. I'm a criminal. I'm glad that he's arresting me and taking my criminal ass off the streets. That's it. He said, Mr. Trump, President, take my wife, please. My wife is yours. I'm upset that you didn't take my children too. I was offering them up as well. Please take my children, Mr. President. You are the legend. Like, he already said, oh, Mr. President, thank you for bombing my country where my family members live still. That was awesome. And now, thank you, Mr. President, for taking my wife away. because you suspect her of being an Iranian sleeper cell agent, potentially.
What do you think's going to happen?
I'm on the list to be going to a different facility.
Arpanay speaking with us on the phone, uncertain about her future. Any regrets with your vote?
None. Still supporting him.
While her family continues showing support for President Trump, hoping their mom comes home soon.
Trump is not trying to do anything bad. We understand what he's doing, and he wants the best for the country.
Dude, what a crazy world we live in, man. I don't know what to say about that, dude. I don't know what to say about that. That really fucked me up. I'm not gonna lie. That was, wow. He's like, I still love my president. He's doing the right thing. He's getting these illegals out of here, including my bitch wife, is wild. I mean, that level of dick riding should be illegal, dude. Wow. He said he didn't regret his fucking vote, dude. The admin literally bombed Iran and then decided that the mother of his children is a hostile entity, a sleeper cell, and packed her up. I know we always say, in the words of Michael Jamal Brooks, be kind to individuals, be ruthless to systems. But like, as this one chatter also pointed out, it's like, it's getting increasingly more difficult to be kind to individuals. If you're that kind of individual, I can't, like it's so hard for me not to just make fun of you. That's crazy. Like, I know the process of deportation is a uniquely cruel endeavor. But like, you and your Trump supporting wife are currently experiencing this like horrifying endeavor, and you're just sitting there being like, I don't regret it. It's fine. The f are we doing? What are we doing? How am I supposed to feel bad about a guy who doesn't personally feel bad about what took place? That person needs to feel bad from a societal perspective. If you're okay with shit like that, what are we but livestock? I mean, he's livestock. Like, he's not doing the one thing that human beings are supposed to do, conservative, Democrat alike. When it comes knocking down their door, the idea is, oh, the leopards are eating my face. How could this have happened? You're not supposed to go, I hope it's yummy for the leopards, while your face is being eaten. Up until this moment, we have not had an experience where the leopards are eating your face and you're going, oh, that's fine. Here, take my arm too. Like, it is a thing that animals have is self-preservation skills, okay? This is getting to a degree where you're doing like, blood sacrifice rituals for your cult. And if you have that level of loyalty to a person who like fucks you over deliberately, okay, in broad daylight, and you still defend it while you're in the process of getting fucked over, at that point, there is no saving that person. You know what I mean? There's no amount of cruelty that person can experience that will shake him away from his position. At least, like, there are Trump supporters who are like, I didn't think my undocumented relatives were going to get apprehended. And they very quickly realize, like, okay, we were duped. This sucks. I'm going out in the streets and I'm going to protest. Great. Fine. It sucks that this happened to you. It sucks that it happened to your immediate family members. I'm right there by your side. But when a motherfucker like, oh, my family members got deported, but I hated them. Honestly, they were criminals, actually. That's good. Hopefully they arrest me too next. What am I supposed to do? I can't help you if you can't help yourself. This is like a person on Medicaid whose Medicaid just got removed, and they're running around being like, well, at least billionaires who are the most productive members of society are getting a tax break. That's fine. I'm sure things will be better. It's like, okay, good luck then. You're in a death cult. You're a psycho. Beyond absurd. It's not normal. Every night I go to sleep and I think to myself, I hope the Walton family is getting a higher return on their initial investment this quarter. Like, I hope they had a productive quarter. I'm working at Walmart. I need SNAP benefits because Walmart's not paying me enough. That's annoying. Anyway, here's the other side of it, which is a very common story. Trump voter and business owner whose workers were detained by ICE speaks out.
Financially as well as emotionally, it takes a toll. You get to know these guys. You become their friends, just not an employer, but a friend. And you see what happens to their family. It's quite a shock. They did everything right, and they all had their work permits. A few of them have driver's licenses. They worked with me on the Navy base, which had to go through intense security, and they found out all about their past.
No, this is good for you guys to hear, because a lot of people don't understand. Like, there are a fuck ton of migrant workers that have the proper authorization, that have gone through rigorous background checks. Their immigration status is in limbo. Like the lady that we just saw, for something so marginal, so inconsequential, she cashed a $200 fake check and then had her green card taken away in the process. That's a cruel ass system, man. That is a ruthless and cruel ass system. And it's the lack of care that we have as a society for some of these most marginalized people, some of the most vulnerable people that are simply just making ends meet. You know, they're here, they're working, they are going to ICE facilities with regular frequency to check in routinely. They have their court dates, they have their paperwork. They're trying to put pennies together so that they can get a lawyer to help them out throughout this process. And they're making pennies on the dollar on top of this. And then they're being called criminals and getting deported, ripped away from their families, ripped away from their neighborhoods, ripped away from their lives that they've developed here, that they've built here. Dudes who have been working here in this country for multiple decades. You know what I mean? White people don't give a shit. You're talking to a wall. I don't think that's true. I think that there are plenty of white people who do give a shit. But there are certain kinds of white people that don't, the racist kind. And that number is much smaller than you think. That's my point. I mean, here's a white person who does give a shit now, because this is the leopards ate my face moment for him.
You voted for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
If you had a chance to sit across the president like you do now with me, what would you say to him?
Well, you know, the buck stops there, right? I did not understand his wishes to go after people who are legally here and trying to do right by them and their families.
What's up?
And I didn't understand that that's what he was trying to do. From what I understood, from what he has said, and from what ICE officials have said, that is not at all what they're doing. And then all the representatives of them are stating the same thing. That's not what we're doing. We're going after the criminals. Well, what happened here?
Yeah, I mean, look, at a certain point, you also have to realize, like, when there is not a single... This guy's not watching my broadcast, man, you know? He's not a HasanAbi head. You all feel the way that you do when you're like, these guys are so dumb. But you have to remember, think about your parents. Some of your parents probably also have the same exact mentality. And part of the reason why they have that same exact mentality is because they're watching Fox, or even when they're watching MSNBC or CNN, up until Trump became president and started doing these deportations, there was very little coverage on how violent this shit was going to look like. And that's the reason why I place a lot of this blame on the Democratic Party as well, because they did not say a single damn thing. They did not counter message against this. Not only did they not counter message against this, they messaged for this. They messaged in the direction, maybe not to the same severity, maybe not to the same level of ruthless cruelty, but they certainly wanted a militarized border. They wanted to fundraise for a piece of legislation that was going to do Trump's 2020 border policies. They did this on the campaign trail. They said, build the wall. They kept propping up Biden's like deportations as a benefit, not talking about how devastating this shit actually was. The employer said they had their work permits. These are people here on an NTA before an IJ who entered illegally and were released pending immigration court. Yeah. On an NTA before an IJ, like immigration judge, you're saying, right? Like they got the proper authorization. There are a lot of people like this. There are a lot of people exactly like this. There are millions of people like this who come into the country, illegally. Yeah, notice to appear. NTA is notice to appear before an immigration judge, who entered illegally and were released pending immigration court. Yeah. Now, what's crazy about the immigration court is that it works as a function. It works alongside the federal the federal agencies. It's not like a separate entity. So when there's a woke president, they can be a little less restrictive. And then when there's a president like Donald Trump, he can use the immigration courts system as a mechanism to literally steal people, to kidnap people. That's why you see so many of those like gruesome images of people that are just like going to their regular court date. Okay, they're getting their notice to appear. They're appearing in court in front of an immigration judge thinking like, oh, I'm just going to get an extension, right? I'm going to get an extension. I'm going to get my work clearance. I've been here for like 10 years, whatever. This is what I've done every single time. And now that opportunity is being used to kidnap this person. Trump ain't so great when he starts to hurt your life, huh? I mean, like this guy is the classic example of like a dickhead business owner who also fell to the mercy of the overwhelming amount of like, there's so many criminal migrants out there. Immigration court system within the DOJ, so a part of the executive branch. Yes. You can get a work permit after accruing a certain amount of days of filing an asylum application, for example. Yeah. There are so many people like this who we could just like expeditiously process and give the proper permanent clearances for. But we don't do that. We just keep their immigration status in limbo. And that is by design. Same with the DACA recipients. Deferred action on childhood arrival. 90% approval for amnesty for this program. The program itself is crazy. It is crazy rigid. You can't even fly out of the country and shit. You know what I mean? If you're on DACA, it's ridiculous. You have to have an unvarnished record, no crimes whatsoever. You have to go to college. You have to have a job, like all this shit. It is so rigid. And the fact that we don't give these people proper amnesty is insane. Dreamers is who I'm talking about. Yes. DACA, deferred action on childhood arrival. Remember, these are people who came into the country alongside their parents when they were a child. Okay. When they were a minor, they had no say in this process. And this country is all they know. They don't know any other country. They grew up here. This is their country. It's functionally no different than birthright citizenship. Can you report both sides and show ICE removing criminals as well? I can't. You want to know why I can't? Because the criminals that ICE is removing are already in jail because they're criminals. They've already been processed through the criminal justice system. That's why I can't show you both sides of this equation, because the people that they are removing right now, the people that they're deporting right now, the ones that have a criminal record are for incredibly minor shit. They're not like rapist decapitators or some shit that ICE is like bravely taking out of this country. Birth certificate says otherwise, says My Lottery. My Lottery is a great name for you. Yeah, you did hit the lottery, I guess. That makes you feel like you're better than these people. ICE is not removing criminals. That's why so many people turn around and say, well, they're criminals because they entered the country illegally. That's why. That's why people have to do the classic goalpost shift. Trump didn't say he was going to remove everyone that crossed the border, okay? He said he was going to go after these like rapist, drug dealer, vicious, violent types. They're deporting people that have been here for 20 years who have been checking in with ICE on a monthly basis since the agency even made these sorts of checks a requirement. They have the proper clearance and the authorization to work, and they're removing people that have like a trespass from like 15 years ago. You think that's a rabid criminal that you have to get out of this country ASAP? Yeah, 65% of the detainments have no criminal record, and 93% had no violent convictions. I'm willing to bet, if we looked into it, the 7% that they have violent convictions are either like got in a fucking bar fight, or the ones that actually have the heinous crimes on their record were already in prison and they're being removed from prison and being deported instead of going through the entire sentence. Because in an effort to justify why they're doing this, like, for example, one of the things that they did was park ICE into Rikers Island in New York City. Why did they do that? Because they want to get people who have actually done any crimes whatsoever that are migrants to be deported so they can beef up the numbers of criminals that they're apprehending and deporting. But even with all of that, because they have this ridiculous quota for, remember, a problem that doesn't exist, even with all of that, they have 7% violent convictions in the deportations. 7%. And even before these numbers came out, this is what my suspicion was. I told you that the majority of these people are not going to have any convictions whatsoever, and that the ones that do have some kind of conviction will be for like mail fraud or wire fraud or trespassing or something minor, and that a very tiny number will be people that actually have like kind of like a violent felony on their record, and those people are already in those people are already inside of these detention facilities to begin with. Because when Donald Trump was claiming that there are hundreds of thousands of people being murdered by undocumented migrants and like no one's doing anything, that meant that the police force under the Biden administration was capturing criminals, right? Let's say like an undocumented migrant did a heinous crime. They did a rape and like they did a murder, right? And then the police would capture this person, and then they would look at their background, they'd look at their record and go, oh my God, he's an undocumented migrant. We have to release him. Do you think that's what was going on? Because if you don't believe that, then the idea that the Biden administration was doing catch and release for like actual rapist criminals is insane.